session in the morning. So yeah, this room again, we're here talking a bit more about the scamming compound. And I will try to make this session a bit more conversational, a bit more like questions, because I guess the reason why you are in this room, most likely you are aware of what's happening in the scamming compound. So we are here to try as much as we can to find solutions, to find actions. My really big hope and wish will be we don't go out of this room empty-handed, but we go out of the room knowing what we should do next step and trying to, inspire our colleagues and trying to find actions what we can do together. So that's my hope. So yeah, I will still just have a bit of a presentation, but then not too much, and really feel free to interrupt me anytime, raise your hand, tell me your questions, no problem, I'm very happy to have this format. Yeah, so maybe just a little bit more about myself. In the morning I didn't really prepare that much to talk about who we are. So Humanity Research Consultancy, HRC, we are a UK-based social enterprise with the expertise in countering human trafficking and modern slavery. So we are a consultancy, that means we provide research and consultancy service to government, NGOs, and private sector. So previously, for example, there are private sectors having issue in their supply chain, passport confiscation, overcharging recruitment fees. They come and ask us to help them with remediation plan and prevention plan. Or for example, large NGOs like Windrock, or they have Plan International, they want to find out what would be suitable for them to have a strategy in countering certain problems. They come to us and provide them with research and consultancy support. So that's what we do. We are not an NGO, we are not a non-profit, we are a social enterprise. That means we sustain our operations by providing service instead of receiving donations. Yeah, and so in the last several months, for around 1 year, we have been really involving very deeply in the scamming compound. Initially, honestly, we were very shocked to see like Taiwanese, Chinese being victims. We were just not aware of that because traditionally Taiwan is very much a destination country, and we see migrant workers coming to Taiwan being abused. That's what we work a lot in the last few years. Then we start seeing Taiwanese also becoming victims and other nationalities which we are not always aware of, like for example, like US, Americans become victims in Cambodia. So we were very shocked when we started responding to that because at the time the resource was very scarce, and I understand for most of the large organizations, for them to suddenly make a U-turn, like they have their 5 years, 3 years plan and suddenly need to respond to these issues, extremely difficult. So we started to kind of engaging it deeply because we are able to, we are very small, very agile, just decide to respond to it. Yeah, so a bit about myself. I mean, in the morning we have talked a little bit about it, but yeah, so I work a lot on countering human trafficking, and then I'm sitting in the peer review college for the UK Modern Slavery Policies and Evidence Center. Previously, also the board member for Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, RAGAS. So this is more like Rotarians coming together and wanting to address modern slavery human trafficking. I also used to sit in the UN University Delta 8.7 policy guide drafting members. Yeah, so this is a bit about me. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us, and glad you find out we are here. Okay, so as I say, for this presentation, I will talk a little bit more about tactics, criminal tactics. So in the last few months, I've been really shocked on how much criminals are very open about their resources. So these are some screenshots of Telegram groups. I understand it's in Chinese, so it can be a bit hard for you to understand what to say there. But just judging by the picture, this is actually some groups that sharing materials of how you scam people. So you are creating a fake persona and saying you are having a luxury life, so you can send some more like spa photos. You may be having, for example, great meals, and that's the resources for you to send photos. And they are also, for example, the one right here, down here, the Chinese translation, it says like rhetorics and materials to chatting and to help you with great like performance in your scamming work. That's what it says right there. Yeah, and there are several groups like this. They've been very upfront about what they're doing. For example, this one you can see there are around 6,000 members. I don't need to even join that Telegram chat. As you can see that underneath there's a join button because I haven't joined yet. I haven't joined yet, but I am able to see all this, and all of you can see it. I can share the Telegram group link. You can go in and you can use Google Translators to find out what's saying there. So not just pictures, but there are also, for example, Word documents, like listing what you should say. You can just literally copy past that and scam somebody. And there's also multiple different scam techniques. I mean, we talk about pig butchery. Essentially, pig butchery means romance scam. So you try to develop a romantic relationship with somebody, and then in the end, you scam that person. You try to get money out. But there are also more than that. So, for example, one of the documents I read, they are scamming Japanese victims. So the way they do it is by asking Japanese guys and females, saying, "Hey, this is online dating. Do you want to join this room and let's get a bit intimate?" And they recorded the videos of that scam victim and saying, "Okay, now give me money. Otherwise, I'm going to release that video to your families and destroy your reputation." So that's not pig butchery. This is other scam methods. Or for example, say, okay, there's like online football gambling, that's gamble, and then so there's multiple different scam methods, and you can find that in those Telegram chats. Download the Word documents, and for example, of course, they are doing scamming. That means they have lots of those needs for phones, and sometimes you want to fake that you are not in Cambodia, Myanmar, or Laos. Or like, for example, Philippines or Dubai, you want to say you are actually located in the States or you are located in Spain. So right here, it's lots of cards. They are saying that the Spanish SIM card is arriving, American SIM card is arriving. So it's a whole industry of itself. And I really use the word industry because it is industry. Like you can find suppliers supplying you all different fronts. This guy, the photo right here, the translation is, this guy is Mr. Nan, and his real name is Wu Zhaoyu. His address is that ID, and this guy, on this June 26th, run away from Xincheng compound. Please, anybody, if you can find this guy's information, I will give you rewards. There's a bounty on this person who ran away from a certain compound. So, and this is contact number right here. So the criminals are creating a tarot in a way that if you run away from here, they try to really punish you and to scare other people as well. And again, that information is right here, openly. The level of it's like how it's just shocking. It's really shocking. A little bit more about those like Telegram group. This is just kind of a golden source of information. So for example, right here, the first one, it's like they have lots of English-speaking Africans who can conduct English scams. Anybody who want to purchase these people, bring the money here. Contact number. The second one says in Dubai, they are located in Dubai. They are searching also for jobs. Like they are happy to go to another different country. The lower part here, okay, this one includes a bit of photos of the country flags. And so even if you don't understand, it says they are located in Philippines. They are getting rid of girls. The girls are from China, Mexico, Russia, Vietnam. These are, they say these are young virgins, and they can go to, they can do anything. So criminals are selling and buying people like that. The second one here, it's you can see, as I mentioned in the morning, the unemployment rate is extremely high right now in China. So not just people who will be like involuntarily going to a scamming compound, but even some people that are advertising for themselves, saying, I have passport, I have done this butchery before, I don't want to go to Dubai, but any companies, if you can give me a job, I'm happy to work for you for scamming. Like, it's crazy. And look at the numbers. Sorry, the can be a bit small, but this chat group, it has 22,843 people in that chat group. Yeah, I mean, of course, some people maybe not just like robots, not necessarily overnight humans, but again, it's a scale we're talking about. And the one on the right hand side, sorry, this is even more disturbing, but it's very, very small. I hope it's not too clear to you. But there are also some channels, they don't talk about buy and sell or, for example, scamming methods, but they are sharing and selling extreme videos, extreme violent videos. People being beaten up, people being, it's all kind of crazy stuff. And so they're selling it in a way that you join, and then they say, okay, you pay certain amount, and you join another group. So I don't know if you heard about it, but several months ago, or like a few years ago, there was a case in Korea, South Korea. It's called like number N. So it's a kind of Telegram as well. Like lots of guys in Korea that were involved in like sharing kind of extreme videos, sexually related videos on Telegram. So this is a bit like that, but it's not necessarily kind of pornography type of things, but violence of people being beaten up, being like tortured. So again, all these, I haven't joined the group, and I can see it. All of you can see with your own eyes as well. And I want to just share a little bit on some kind of those Telegram groups, so you can see the names and can just have them by yourself. So, one second. Yeah. Okay. Right. So yeah. For example, this is a link. I mean, this one, for example, is material for scamming. This is another one, like material for scamming. This one, it's particularly for Myanmar, buy and sell group. Mongpo, for example, this is the location of that Myanmar city. And other group, the final one has lots of Word documents. So again, you can see by yourself. And if your team have that capacity, also feel free to investigate and use that for like evidence. So again, I'll talk a little bit about the scale of the crime. So here's a map that we have previously compiled. And this is a map that where we have actually bring our victim, or for example, our partner organization that we really trusted, like for example, IJN, DASO, or other smaller group that don't share their name, but then they share with us like where they actually bring our victims. Some of those locations you can even find on Google Maps. Like for example, they are literally more like a hotel. You can even find some reviews from several years ago saying, "Oh, this hotel is great, the service is okay," but of course it changed afterwards. It becomes a compound. So for example, this is a Chinatown compound. There's like a Green Giant. So many of them. But also there are lots of compounds that doesn't really have a name. It's just a building. You can actually turn any kind of building. You can turn this hotel, honestly, like as long as you have internet and computers, it's not difficult thing to do. It's not like mining. You need to have a mine, or you need to have a cotton field, or you need to have a forest. No, you just need computer and internet, which is very, very easy for criminal. We talk about Sihanoukville, which is only one part. But if you go, for example, close to the border between Cambodia and Vietnam, or like Phnom Penh, there are also several in Phnom Penh. There are many of them. And as I mentioned this morning, also like in Tachilik, or like for example in Northern, there are also some compounds which is not able to identify. And each compound, some of a very small one can be just dozens of people, hundreds, larger ones, thousands of people. Here we didn't even include like Laos. As I mentioned, the Laos, the special economic zones is even more like in the whole scale. And there, if you do scam, it's not even illegal because everybody's doing scam. Yeah. Any questions so far? Any? Okay. Yeah, sure.
Question on having worked in Cambodia, I definitely saw this in Cambodia. They're not always people being trafficked though.
Yeah.
A lot of these are just scammers.
Yeah.
Because we think somebody set up a scam operation right next to our organization and all the SIM cards and all of that. But they blocked out the windows and they used the back office and they didn't have their business license when they moved in.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely, I mean, lots of them can be also doing that voluntary, doing scam. That's another thing I think quite important to mention. I mean, globally, scam, it's not the same being seen as something really criminal. Like, most of the time, if you report to the police officer, oh yeah, I'm being scammed, they may not necessarily take it seriously, but I found it quite problematic. Because of course, scam itself, it's a problem. And so there's another group called Global Anti-Scam Alliance, GASA. They are trying to really make it illegal globally and try to make police take action. And every year you can find the scamming number, like the kind of total amount of money lost to scammers are increasing every year because it's a very easy crime and it's very hard to prosecute. So I would say that, of course, we are here because of the care for countering human trafficking. But scam itself, it's not okay. Even if they are only doing scam, still it's not okay, and it has to be having some actions countering that. And honestly, on the other side of the story, we know people who've been scammed of their life savings commit suicide, or they're just desperate. I mean, there's another speaker I really respect a lot, Matt Freeman. So he was describing how his son is a doctor, and sometimes they need to pronounce a victim of, I'm sorry, this is not medicine for you. And for people who lost their life savings of a few millions, if the police pronounce to you, sorry, there's no way we can get your money back. It's a similar idea, all of a sudden, your reputation just is ruined. You are a doctor, you are a lawyer, you are somebody who's respected in society. And then you are in this kind of scam, and suddenly your savings are all gone. And it's really devastating for people who lose their money in that way. So just thank you for that question.
So I know, like, I think it's Mario, I'm so bad at pronouncing these names. Like, it's a free economic zone in Myanmar. We've been hearing a lot of cases, we've been seeing a lot of cases where, like, when the victims are, like, almost, like the case goes viral, the Chinese gangs, they don't really want to deal with the victims anymore. They drop them off on the other side of the border in Thailand to get pretty much arrested, and then they're detained and stuff like that. Have you done a lot of work kind of in that? Do y'all see, like, on a government thing, I'm hearing different things from our offices that are like located there doing social project, but are you all seeing like a trend of all of the countries, like the Thai government, the different countries working together and doing a better job of responding to that? Those cases where it's just like free economic zone, there's really no
collaboration.
There's no collaboration. There's no official cross-border thing. There's no official kind of reporting. There's no official, and then like immigration is a nightmare. Deportation is a hot mess. All of that stuff. But are y'all seeing kind of improvements and trends on that collaboration?
I think I do see some improvement, not necessarily always on a very official way, like for example signing MOUs, but more like individual police officers who are really keen and really passionate connected to the other side and certain individual connections. So there are a bit information exchange. I'm seeing that, which is great. And I think also the UN bodies in the past, they are a little bit, at least last year, we didn't see them doing too much, but then they are starting to, having reports, UNODC publishing reports. And for example, Interpol has officially announced that this is orange warning globally, like human trafficking field scamming compound. Like orange warning means this is a global threat. So they are recognizing it and they are start mobilizing more police officers and training them. So that's all like a really good sign. By the way, also talking about like I'm crossing the border to Minnesota. Again, like, I'm not very good at pronouncing it. So like from Milwaukee to Minnesota. If they are in Milwaukee, again, it's very difficult to rescue. But the moment when they are being sent to Minnesota, it's much easier. So of course, even right now, we still have several contacts that we know they are in Milwaukee, but there's no way we can get them out. We tried. IJA, we tried Gaso, we tried other kind of for those powerful individuals, we connect them, just no way to bring them out, and it can be extremely difficult if we don't do it right. So then sometimes the conclusion is we can only wait until the scamming compound don't want that and send them to Minnesota, and that's a place, organizations are able to pick them up, the victims. So yeah.
I have a question. You spoke about English-speaking Africans. Are there specific areas that these Africans are coming to specific countries? Because obviously we are from South Africa. We've seen unfortunately with traffickers on our side, obviously focusing on China, obviously picking up drugs in Dubai. And I just would like to know your thoughts on
so far we see more Eastern Africa. So like personally, I know several Ethiopians, and we supported several Ethiopians going home. They are also Ugandans, Kenyan. I haven't heard about South Africa, for example, but again, we only know tip of iceberg. We don't really know how big the issue is. We will imagine very much it depends on traffickers. Like, to send people all the way from East Africa to Asia, there's no way, there's no local traffickers who's doing that. So very likely sometimes if you see one area just starting to become super popular, like lots of victims are from there, most of the time it's like there are traffickers in that area sending people. But then if there's persecution, for example, I think Nigeria was also sharing that they found lots of victims from one part of Indonesia. When it's persecuted, everything just stopped. All good, no victims anymore from the area. So it depends on if there are traffickers operating.
Yes, so my question is then also, because we obviously focus specifically with Nigeria, when we talk about scamming, all the sex traffickers we've already said all have been involved in scamming. And we know that they are infiltrating at the moment with like a lot of into Asia and countries.
Yeah, so yes, we do hear, I mean, this is funny, but so, okay, a while ago, I had one phone call with one Taiwanese guy in Sihanoukville. He is kind of a shady guy, but at that case, he was happy to help some victims to be rescued successfully. He rented cars for them to, from Sihanoukville all the way to Phnom Penh. He said he's shady. He himself said that. He said that one day he will need to go back to the police in Taiwan and just to confess everything. But also in the phone, he say but at the moment he still want to continue to scan. He said he's not doing any false aid, but he's doing scanning. He said he's going to Africa to do that. And what we heard is actually some other criminals are also going to Africa to conduct scan. And as you say, Nigerian scan is quite a known situation. So yeah, there's definitely kind of collaborations between criminals and moving to different areas. Thank you for that.
I just want to add from there. We actually just had a report and worked with local police. Yes. Just want to add that recently we also had a report on 4 women in Zambia, from Zambia. At first, the job advertisement was to go to Thailand, and then they were transferred to Laos. So we were trying to trace them. Unfortunately, one of the girls managed to sneak out her phone so they can connect with their family. So they are now exit the online scamming compound. So Zambia is also in the picture now. And I think also this situation, and we also read something about this where people come to our country and then transported to another, and that's where the compound actually is, And I know we're talking about after the situation, after they were being exploited, they were transferred to another to the border. how is there any attempt to like kind of in the border when they're before they actually being transported to the compound, how you can, is there any initiative to do that, and is there anything that we can help as an organization to identify them before they actually get into the compound?
That's a good question, and it's actually one of my recommendations to focus more on border control. I mean, I personally support people to go in and out of different countries. I don't think the ideas of stopping movement is that good, but to control properly of if it's criminal, if it's trafficking, that's still very important. So that's actually one of my recommendations, particularly the border between Thailand and Cambodia. I will share actually one route of how one Taiwanese victims say how it's being trafficked. So yeah, maybe later I will share with you. So we are continuing a little bit of the slides, and again, feel free to ask questions anytime. So we have seen people being recruited in different ways. A lot of the Chinese are being recruited through smuggling because China and Cambodia, it's not like within borders, so usually they are trafficked through Vietnam. I mean, okay, at that moment they are not necessarily trafficked, but like smuggled sometimes from China, smuggled through Vietnam and then arrive in Cambodia. Or if it's going to Myanmar, it's even easier because there's border, so they just go straight away to Myanmar. But when it comes to Taiwanese or other nationalities, usually it's within these 5 different methods. So one is through legal major job matching websites, like LinkedIn or other legit websites, but then scammers and criminals are advertising jobs that's fake, going to Thailand, going to Europe, going to whatever. A second one is through, for example, social media, like Facebook or like WhatsApp, a bit more informal recruitment. Something we see also very dangerous is through personal network. So imagine today the criminals already have victim A and asking victim A that, okay, now contact your high school and university mates, bring some of them here. If you don't bring 5 people this month here, we'll beat you to death. Bring people here. So we see lots of cases like this, that people say their university friend held that they are having a great time in Cambodia, join them. And it's really dangerous because you will trust your old friend. So this is also particularly horrible. And then there are also cases that traffickers pretend to be a certain client. So for example, saying, okay, we are a hotel, we need magicians to perform, and you are a magician, that's the reason we want you. Or we need architectures, and you are a famous architecture, please come to join us. So they are recruiting certain type of people and being very, very believable. Or kidnapping, like some of them, for example, Americans or some of other nationalities who are mainly just like tourists or like having a honeymoon stay, they're just being basically kidnapped in Cambodia, within Cambodia. So these are some of the criminal methods we see. Scammers, they celebrate how they earn money every month. They will be calculating how much this month our company is making, how much some people is not doing any profits, punish them, or like having this kind of very Chinese style of like celebrating stuff. And then the other screenshot is wild animal trafficking. So we see some compound owners, they are so bored with all the brands, but they're luxury brands. They start buy and sell animals, tigers, lions. Here, this is another Telegram group saying like we have little tigers in Myanmar, we have a stock, buy it. And I want to show, just show this one. This is the roads that a victim shared with me of how he was being trafficked from Cambodia to Thailand. Because he was not performing very well, and he was being found of contacting rescue team, police officers. So the Cambodian criminals are trying to bring him through Thailand to Myanmar. So these are the actual places that he shared with us. He was in this place before, passing through, and then in that shop, and then continue the journey to these areas. In the end, these victims, he was like self-escape. So he actually literally just found an opportunity, he opened the car, he kicked the criminal, he started running away really fast and then going to the shop, hiding in the shop, just drama, like what you can see in like Hollywood movies. But that's how he was like rescued. I mean, it's not rescued, he's self-escaped. So afterwards, he also brought some Thai police to that border and showed that this is the area. But yeah, just to make you aware that yes, border is important because lots of victims, they either come to Thailand first and go to other neighboring countries, or in other neighboring countries but go through Thailand. And I think Thailand is comparatively one of the countries in this region that the police are responding a bit better, maybe because there's a tourism industry, you don't just ruin your reputation of being super dangerous. So we see Thailand are a bit more active in prosecuting and trying to make sure that it's not going too over the roof. And yeah, so this is an example. Coming back a bit on some of the recommendations. So yeah, we need more tools that allows cross-border law enforcement, and we need to explore tools that stop criminals from accessing their assets. Again, this is about money, and the reason why they scam people like forced labor is not found, not for whatever other reasons, is for making money. So lots of criminals, even though they are based in Southeast Asia, they do have their houses, fancy cars, assets abroad. For example, Swiss Bank, that's where some of the Cambodian families hiding their wealth there. Or for example, buying places in Singapore, in Australia. Those information is very difficult to find, and I'm not trying to claim I'm like financial experts. It's something a little bit beyond our capacity, the money side of the story. But we do know, yes, those things happen. And for example, some of the victims from the compound survivors was also telling us, yes, they know their boss, it's like living in Singapore, and when their boss visited the compound, they bring a tiger with them. How many people in Singapore may have a tiger? We go after that. And so yeah, and also make the crime known, the actions will follow. So I think in most of the Asian countries, you do see, for example, Indonesian governments, like Thai governments, or like Bangladeshi governments, getting slightly more like active, tapping Indian governments. The reason is because the crime is more known now. But the next step, I really hope to make wider society, including some of the Western countries, to know the consequence of this. Because okay, even if your citizens are not victims in the compound, their money are losing. Like, are you happy that your taxpayers' money just losing to the criminals like that? Like, there is also a consequence here. So we need to make the crime known, and actions will follow afterwards. So this is one of the global sanction schemes that kind of we are thinking about trying to see how we can utilize it. And this is not the only one. There are several sanction schemes around the world that may stop criminals from accessing their money. This is global Magnitsky. So in Mongolia, say the guy Zhao Wei, the Chinese guy in Laos, he's actually on this list. Even though it doesn't seem like super effective for him. But anyway, this is one of the potential tools. And I'm very happy and I'd love to learn more about if you know any other sanction tools. Because the reality is really hard to depend on the Myanmar authorities or Cambodian authorities to do their job immediately. Not tomorrow, maybe not next month. But can we try to ask other wider governments to stop the criminals from moving their money? I mean, there are much more examples, let's say, for example, when it comes to countering terrorism. For some reason, terrorism has lots of attention, lots of budget, lots of tools. Banks, they will be very careful to not fund any terrorism activities. So they will do their due diligence and making sure that this is not linked to terrorism. They don't want to send check for human trafficking. So there's examples there. And for example, Telegram, also several years ago when ISIS was recruiting lots of people, they also used Telegram. And Telegram closed down several channels and lots of individual accounts because they know these are ISIS recruiting individuals. But now we are seeing criminals in the skin compound using Telegrams, and they are still out there. So can we learn from other sectors how they do things? Yeah. Any questions so far? Before coming up?
Yeah. My question is that because through your presentation, not only Cambodian has the scamming case, but also Laos and Myanmar as well.
Yes, and
so
also
I wonder that Laos government they recognize this is the trafficking case or only the fraudulent crime. Because in Cambodian right now, after this year, 5 companies has been closed through investigation by the Anti-Trafficking by police. But after the victim has been reviewed around the 1,000 victim has been reviewed recently. But those of the victims are not willing to file complaint against the company. So that the government does not recognize as trafficking, but only the illegal migrant, something like that. So I think need to be cooperated by the victim to during the investigate, during the interviewing by the immigration police. Because right now in the process of recognize this is a trafficking case or only the fraudulent the crime. So that my question is that related to the Lao government or Khmer government, they recognize this is trafficking or
Yeah, thank you for the question. So honestly, Cambodia is a comparatively better environment in terms of there's a decentralized authority that you can talk to them. In Myanmar, it's extremely difficult because it's basically in kind of a war situation and all different areas. Who's the boss? There's criminals boss. Like there's no real kind of authority you can depend on one centralized one. Yeah, so it's very hard for them to necessarily recognize what is this. Like, they don't even label, they don't necessarily do like victim identification. It's very rough. Like, okay, we need this person, or this person can get to you. That's it. End of story. Like, not more than that. Laos is a bit somewhere in between. Like, yes, there's a government, but then the trafficking area, like in the special economic zones, which is another kingdom of itself. That's like we're seeing it everything Chinese and currency is Chinese, and so they are a little bit not always able to even enter the area. I mean, we did have experience of bringing them out successfully, and the anti-trafficking police in Laos, they are supportive. But they are also not calling that human trafficking. I mean, maximum they call it forced labor, which is okay, which is kind of recognizing the crime. But yeah, it's difficult, it's limited. I honestly think that Cambodia has hope if we are able to really convince the government to take this seriously. Whatever rhetoric it is, doesn't have to be in modern slavery, human trafficking, it's forced labor, and it's like, with enough of a sentencing, it can still work. But yeah, thank you for that question.
Thank you. Mina, thank you so much. And I think our energy is with you in a difficult situation, and we hope that you can maintain your own self-help and enthusiasm and safety to continue them. Thank you. I'm wondering, next time a scammer contacts me, is there a safe way to interact with them, to ask them if they are safe, to give them some direction about how we can help them rather than just hanging up?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for thinking about that. Honestly, I also don't have a very good answer. I mean, most likely these days, scammer don't necessarily call you, but they message you on LinkedIn, on Twitter, WhatsApp. And yes, I have chat histories that other victims of scam shared with me, and they were asking the other side, like, are you actually a victim? And the victims of slavery said yes, and she believed she doesn't have a chance to leave that compound this life. That's what she said. And actually, I was sharing that conversation with Maya. Yeah, so yeah, it's like that. Maybe it depends. I mean, you can always ask. If the person feels not safe, they will not say anything. They will just ignore your question and continue. But yeah, there are some cases the victims may say that they are actually a victim, and they may, if you say, send you locations so that they work. Yeah, thank you for raising that.
So
you imagine that they're being supervised?
They are always being supervised.
Not necessarily.
They are always supervised,
yeah.
but some of them may still be able to find opportunities because they will be like working very long hours in the office and then have time to go back to their dormitory. The working hours in the office may be actually midnight in Asia because maybe they're matching the US time zone. But when they go back to their dormitory, sometimes there's an opportunity for them to send out things safely or like create a separate account.
Like, to go on that, sometimes the like compound people are just a little cocky. So we had a case in the WA state where it was a smaller compound, about 7 victims, and the compound like leader person didn't care if they were texting their family. So literally every day we're getting updates from the victims who's still there, what's going on, how things are going, because they knew they're in the WA state, it's impossible for them to get out, it's a free economic zone, it's controlled by the Chinese gang. And so sometimes the traffickers are just, a little kind of cocky about it. And so you never know what you can get depending on the compound.
This morning you talked a little bit, or there was a question about victim identification and the challenges of that. And I mean, obviously we did that in terms of the sex industry rescue kind of thing, and how do we sort that out. And so making sure that the people who are arrested are not victims. But then also I want to ask a question about the flip side, right? Of how do we even understand and define who's a perpetrator, who's a criminal, when they're often coming from the same communities, the same vulnerabilities, and particularly when we're talking about Myanmar, right? All of the region was affected by COVID-19, and I think you talked about the impact of that. And it also sent people online in ways, and it's just fundamentally has changed the entire societies as well as the anti-trafficking, as the trafficking landscape and the anti-trafficking landscape. And I remember kind of mid-pandemic, the UNODC did a talk about Myanmar especially, because they weren't just dealing with COVID-19, but like Ukraine, also huge nationwide armed conflict. And experts in Burma basically are saying that it's a failed state already, and it's just waiting the days that it's going to crumble. And one of the things that UNODC said is that there's no more there was already, even when there was quote peace and quote democracy, not sustainable economy, but it's all going to crumble, and they're just waiting. And so the only really economic structures that will be left are these informal and often criminal enterprise-led ones. So my question then, and the conclusion out of that was, for some places, the Law State and otherwise, Shan State and otherwise, there isn't going to be a choice of whether or not you're involved in criminal activities. It's, are you going to be the victim or are you going to be the perpetrator? Drug trafficking is basically going to be the only industry, and and people trafficking, and in certain places arms trafficking. So how do we even, I know it's a huge complexity legally and otherwise, but it's a real reality. And I think even if you're not involved in Myanmar, we all didn't see COVID-19 coming, and I know that people in Europe are having to figure out how to respond in conflict there. Conflicts will come, climate change will come, the next unforeseen thing will come. So what's kind of looking up, what are some macro lessons that we can learn and apply right now?
Yeah, thank you. That's all two very good questions. The first one about how we can see if somebody is actually a criminal but not a victim. I mean, there are several things you can judge. For example, were they like joining the compound, going there voluntarily, or they were actually recruited forcefully? Like that should have some check messages. If the person being recruited as secretary but ended up in the compound, then that's maybe one indicator. Or some people they try to escape by themselves, like for example jumping over the windows. That's also very clear. And again, also reaching out, mostly it has some risks. So if they try to reach out despite their own safety, or for example they're being like really severely punished, they show scars, and that usually mean quite clear they are victim. I mean, of course, there's always a huge area that really needs more investigation. And so I think our stand will still be, if a person reach out and won't leave, it's good to try to bring them out as much as possible, because even if it's a criminal, it's better we bring them out and prosecute them instead of leaving them inside and continuing the atrocity. So, and then afterwards they come back, of course they will face police officers, and then they can present all the evidence and to try to prove they are victims or not, or maybe they need to face some sentencing yeah, but it's still better if they reach out to bring them out. That's basically what we will recommend. The second question is, yes, Myanmar is, as a reason why I say compared to Cambodia, Myanmar is way more difficult. And I think one thing at least one we realize that, okay, I don't want to be political, but the whole skinning compound, honestly, as I say, it's Chinese-speaking criminals. I say Chinese-speaking because I'm recognizing they are also Taiwanese criminals, they're Malaysians. Of course, like a lot of them are Chinese, and especially those top guys, like for example Zhao Wei, it's a Chinese person, have a good relationship with the government. And I would say, honestly, Chinese government need to take lots of responsibilities in trying to kind of supporting their own victims, but also trying to do something to their criminals, because they do have the ability, to be honest. And most of those guys, they have a track history, they have pictures, they are shaking hands with really top guys. So if China is not allowing these, there's no way they are doing like those issues outside. So I would say actually we need really more regional dialogues, and there's already a lot between, for example, Southeast Asian countries, but I don't know how much there's more like diplomatic talks between, for example, ASEAN countries and demanding, for example, China, Taiwan, Malaysia to, you know, do whatever you can to stop your own criminals, operating there. Myanmar, of course, is another area that we can try to do something, but I also don't have an answer because a war is a war, and when the state is really not functioning, it's really hard to find any angle to start. Like all we can do is just very patchy and very, reactive instead of being proactively having a whole holistic strategy. Great.
Yeah, not a question, but just to add a bit of commentary. Like the evolution of this in Cambodia, I'm based in Cambodia, and the evolution of this in Cambodia has been fascinating because during COVID-19, when people who had come to Cambodia as ESL teachers, so they come to teach English as a second language, so well-educated, good qualifications, and during COVID-19, when the schools closed, they were seeing posts which are on all the expat Facebook groups in Cambodia saying, this job, never told you what the job title was, but incredible salaries, benefits, etc. And so you had people, including from South Africa, who were well educated, that were falling into these scams. And I've met some of these people in Phnom Penh and spoken to media and so forth. And so that really kind of changed the idea of what is a victim, especially in Cambodia, where we think about human trafficking, we think about migration, low economics, etc. And now we were meeting people that were very well educated, university educated, they were falling into these scam compacts. So completely different makeup of what we experienced previously. And I think that was part of the slow reaction as well, because it was difficult to understand in ways. And then when you look at what's happened in Cambodia, like in 2021 into 2022, the Khmer Times, which is a Cambodian government mouthpiece, was reporting on this in great detail and doing multiple page stories about these compounds, giving details about how people were jumped off roofs with messages carved in their arms, explaining what happened to them, finding bodies, etc. And then it seems as other members of the elite caught wind that this was perhaps a financially lucrative industry that they hadn't heard of yet, the Khmer Times went silent. And VOD, another previous independent newspaper in Cambodia, they were also closed down recently for apparently other reasons, but they were also very vocal about it. So even Cambodians, the elite have been catching up with this because it's been happening so fast over such a short period of time. And so from my experience in Cambodia, I would say that true, people are not identifying themselves as victims, but because of a lot of pressure that's being put on them from employers, police, society, etc. And so it seems to me that in terms of prevention, the best option is actually outside, I'm not speaking for Myanmar, but it definitely comes from outside of Cambodia. The organizations in Cambodia are kind of reacting and supporting where they can. But I've spoken to people in the Philippines, government in the Philippines, and they've been saying that they'd now like to get prevention in their airports, or they would just like to promote more. And I think that that's where ASEAN as a region needs to come together. And even for those actors who we we know it's happening in those countries but are not necessarily really speak about it, we have a greater chance of working in prevention in the countries where those people are going.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. That's very much true. Yeah, that's what yes.
Quick question. A lot of this that you've shown up there has been Telegram. Would you say that Telegram is one of the main mediums that they're scamming, or is it equally across all social media?
So Telegram, what we see more use between criminals. That's the platform they discuss strategies, they discuss what they should do, and survivors are telling us when they were in the compounds. Also, Telegram is the main kind of tools that they are using. However, when they scam victims, they may use other social media, not necessarily Telegram. Actually, I didn't hear that much on Telegram when they scam victims. There's something like called the Euromingles, a dating app, LinkedIn as well, Twitter, many other social media, but not necessarily Telegram, because Telegram you can hide your identity. So that's the reason why it's easy for criminals to use that to discuss really crazy content. But when it comes to scamming the actual victims, they may choose other platforms. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing related to game and also response. Sorry. It's a very interesting topic. And for some Cambodia as well. Is it very important experience that they are looking for showing the scan exchange from the United States? Basically, right now we got 72 already that our project identified as the exchange of scan. But after evaluation or after the process of interview from the national police, none of them are registered. That is challenging because now they are just on illegal migration Recently, Cambodia became the source country and also transit country and also the destination country. So any indicator that you mentioned, true that we are in implementation, that is not very updated on the sampling of trafficker. Back to him. Telegram just only not very popular for Vietnamese people using, but Silo is very popular. So traffickers use many ways. They use many ways. Message you, talk to you through friends, because most of the victims are already graduated from year 2 or universities. So they are not a very low education. Even if you are some staff or NGO worker, are becoming a victim as well. Be careful about that because they have many ways to trick you. For example, your salary just only low than is already provided. So why you apply for that? You have to go to move. Sometimes you become decent Talking back, thank you very much. You are very brilliant consultant to find out anything related to Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam. But this is very blessing for our region country. Very important for everyone to know that we are very hard. 72 already are become a victim. We have evidence, we have a picture, we have a video, we have any of criminal thing, but they reject it because of illegal migration. This is the trend of the government. Okay, thank you, sir. I will just only add of your.
Yeah, I would say definitely there's lots of trainings for the police officer needed, both on for example non-punishment principles, people who are. And also other things. And okay, I see the simple question, but we're only 5 minutes, so that's
It's kind of a follow-up, actually, just a comment regarding the identification of victims and distinguishing between victims and perpetrators. UNODC has developed a screening instrument of indicators of forced criminality, specifically related to this. I don't think it's released yet, but it should be very soon, and they're also going to translate it to Thai, Khmer, and Vietnamese. So that will be helpful, that will be useful, I think. And also just to, yes, there are new types of victims here, and yes, many of them are educated and even university educated, speak multiple languages and things. But the old victims are also still falling prey to this crime as well. So the majority of the victims that we've rescued from the scam factories are also ethnic minority, very disadvantaged. Most of them don't even speak Vietnamese, let alone English. The scam these scam enterprises have live translation software and other translation software, so language is no barrier. They can just use use the translation software. So it's not only educated people, it's a whole range of people. It's anyone who will fall for it that's being tricked.
In Taiwan, lots of indigenous who are also more like a marginal group, and even I met somebody who's even disabled or like grow up in like institutions. They are orphans basically. So yes, definitely they are minority.
I also am from Cambodia. My husband works in data security for a prominent international school, and one of their owners was scammed for thousands and thousands of dollars. And I think one thing with Cambodia is it's almost like it's embarrassing because this happened through Telegram and she transferred all this money, and it was like, what can I or how can we support to encourage them to, not have the shame, report it, do what you can, because, she is seeking, she doesn't share that, and they didn't go forward, and they didn't, do some of the things that I would think, what can we do to also support, like, you were a victim of this. It's okay to say, you were a victim of this. Like, what's the conversation that I can help someone else to support this person to kind of decrease that shame of being scammed?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Honestly, I have 2 colleagues from counter-trafficking sectors telling me they've been scammed. Big number. They were so ashamed, and they were like, I knew about this. How come we also become victim of it? But it happens, and then that just happens to everybody. And as we say, lots of people who are being scammed, they are really smart. For example, the founders of some NGO who are doing this right now, frontline, the founders, they're being scammed by themselves, and they are like really highly educated, very successful in life, and they just find it unbelievable. Especially also if it's like big mutual scam, that means usually there's a romantic element, and it's really difficult to tell people that, and particularly some people's cases even more precarious. For example, it's a crumble of everything. Like you're trusting human beings, and you don't know who you can trust and tell this, and people are going to leverage you, or they're actually going to take this like productively to do something. So I totally agree with you. I think we need another kind of a Me Too movement for victims to speak out loud. Like I am also a victim of losing money to a scammer, something like that. But the whole total scale is definitely much, much larger than what we are seeing right now. And understanding the victims who lose their money to a scammer may also help us to understand the scale of this as well. So thank you for bringing that up. I want to quickly share that there are 2 briefings we have published. HRC, and then some of the things we talk about also in today's presentation. For example, we particularly talk about forced criminality in the briefing that we just published a few months ago. And then there's another one that's like last year. We talk a little bit more like just kind of all the angles around the compounds. And we will continue publishing more of those briefings talking about more like solutions, for example, the sanctions and other things. So I hope this conversation continues. I know our time's up, but please feel free to reach out. I'm very happy to collaborate. We are, as I said, we are very agile. We don't have lots of procedures, but if there's anything we can do together, let us know. And we may also need your help as well, particularly in the region. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.